Your time. I don't think the world has ever had a time when there was so much access to education and educative materials like now. I knew that I wouldn't want to do photography as just the art. I knew I wanted to do photography as business.
What if photography wasn't just about taking pictures, but about telling stories that shape culture, drive industry, and build brands?
Call to say, take that picture down. No, you have to take it down. This is so disrespectful. We paid you. I knew I wanted to grow in my career. I knew I wanted to go to the peak of whatever career I chose. I'm always this kind of person that feels I can. I will. I've not done enough. And I think that's one thing that has continued to drive me to be better at what I do every day.
Kola Oshalusi has spent his career blending creativity, business, and education to elevate photography in Africa. From leading insignia media to building West Africa's largest photography conference, Kola has carved a legacy that goes beyond the lens.
You will keep building. As you build yourself, people notice you.
You'll discover how he has transformed passion into an enterprise and continues to empower the next generation of creative professionals.
The most important thing, irrespective of what happens, is to just keep moving.
What drew you to photography? When did you realize that it could be more than just a passion?
So to some, I jokingly say hunger drove me to photography.
Oh, okay.
Other times I say, oh, photography found me.
Which is the truth?
I'd worked for a few years, gone back to school, was working in medical science, gone back to school to study computer science in Lagos State University. And by the time I was wrapping up, I was past service age. So there was that discrimination. There was that cap then that if you exceed certain age, you can't serve, you have to get an exemption. Beyond that, Nigerian businesses were more about age cap for people they were hiring as fresh intakes into their businesses, into companies. So banks capped at about 22, 23.
What was your future going to look like?
Oh, where do we start? The company I was working in, the only way to grow and get to where I wanted to go was to go back to school and do my certifications in medical science. At that time, I couldn't afford to. And even if I could, medicine in Nigeria wasn't part-time. It was full-time, so you had to leave everything to go back to school. And my option was to find a way to go back to school and study something. So I went back to Lagos University for part-time to have a degree in computing. By the time I was wrapping up, I had a fear of what's next. I knew I wanted to grow in my career. I knew I wanted to go to the peak of whatever career I chose. It was hard seeing that where I was if I didn't go back to school. So now I've got a degree that I was wrapping up in a month, and I had to make a very important decision, which was either continuing working there or move to computing. I think computing was tricky. I had left, I had done a couple of internships at a data processing company. I realized there were many things I needed to do. I had to start from the bottom. And it was tough. So I was in that middle of what do I do? How do I deal with this? Somehow, I was very interested in video editing. So I started out as a video editor. My first foray into the creative space was video editing.
Interesting. Most people start from photography.
I started from video editing and a bit of animation before coming to photography.
Now, this is a very interesting
So that was the
angle.
early part of After Effects, like the very early stage. There was Dreamweaver, a couple of other platforms that I went to design. Between that and animation, then video and tapes. You had to capture from tape, digitize it. But that's very funny, rough time. Power wasn't like this, internet wasn't like this, so you couldn't even get to learn. So I was crossed between doing that. While I was working, I was taking courses online. So the online courses, there was no YouTube.
I'm making it sound like we're in the stone ages.
I think for me, it's important to state those things because when I have conversations and they say things are hard, I'm like, listen, I don't think the world has ever had a time when there was so much access to education and educative materials like now.
Knowledge is everywhere.
Yes. Then it was tough. You had to find a PDF. You wanted to download and find somewhere to read. computers were not so readily available as you have it now. But if you dare to have one,
We used to
don't
go
play.
to cyber cafes.
Absolutely. I was using cyber cafes for internet. So I'll get off work late at night, go to cyber cafe overnight.
Pay for hours. Oh, nights
Do overnight
overnight.
is cheap. So I do nights from the cyber cafe, go home, shower, get into the bus, head to the office. I was living in the cyber cafe just to learn.
Were you getting any sleep at all?
I was sleeping as much as I could, but it was a race. We needed to figure things out. It wasn't easy making those decisions. I needed to figure it out. I was finding interest in the creative space, but I didn't have creatives around me. I didn't come from a family of creatives. It was me trying to figure it out, trying to find a place to enjoy, trying to look for people to see as role models.
Had you decided you wanted to go into photography or video and anime? So it was important for you to upskill yourself.
Absolutely. It was key for me, learning that and building that. While I was doing video and animation, two things led me in. First, I was doing a lot of editing weddings. And where my heart with editing weddings then was when I get those materials to edit, most of the coverages were not what I liked. The footages were not what so I wanted some things more. So sometimes when I'm free, I go with some of these guys who were giving me these jobs. And I had gotten a camera then. Someone had sold a camera, and I'll go there and I'll take pictures. It was the early stage of digital cameras. Even though I had little stint with, cameras, developing films and all that, but it wasn't something I was into. With the digital camera, I think 350D there, I'll go and I'll take pictures. And then I'll do pictures. I was using it. And I was speaking to one of my cousins, and I was like, listen, bro, your pictures are really beautiful. Why don't you try it? I'm like, not my thing. But then I'm like, okay. So I had added some of those images to put it on a separate CD and giving it to the client.
Along
with the video I'd edited. The client said, oh, the pictures are more beautiful than
the video.
They want the photographer I shot. So I was doing a lot of learning. There were a few softwares I was getting access to be able to do a bit of edits. I was able to do all of those, and I'm like, you know what? This might not be a bad idea. Somehow, one thing led to another. I had to be taking pictures, but I was still doing my stuff. And moved more into production. I was doing production management. Then someday, when the job started making a bit of sense, not easily making sense, but at least a bit of sense, I was already making like 5K, 7K, 10K-ish from photography. I'm like, okay, this might also be an alternative option as the video I was focusing on. That's how it all started. Found someone to mentor me one way or the other. Go to those studios over the weekend. I'll spend more time with them. I wasn't charging them. They were not paying me anything. Some would say, oh, no, they can't let me come in to learn. Okay, it's fine. Over time, my breakthrough gig led me into the mainstream industry. I was doing weddings, but the main one was this time. They needed a photographer.
Did you get called up?
It was funny. They needed a photographer. I had met some guy a few days before. I wasn't so good with photography, but I was very daring. I look at a couple of magazines, foreign magazines, the Vogues and the likes. Then I stumbled on, was it one of Kelechi's shoots? I don't know what shoot it was. I'm like, I love this guy's work, but I can't shoot more than this guy. Randomly, I'd met one or two people looking for someone to shoot a cover for magazine. See, I can do it. Have I shot an event? Have I shot a mainstream event? Except for my weddings. And I told them, no, I can shoot a cover. I'm like, oh, are you sure? So when they had said, oh, these are the magazines they wanted to replicate, this is what the cover is going to look like, I said, hey, this is easy and all that. I thought of all those things I've learned in the studios I will go to and everything. I'm like, hey, I can do this now. It was Louis Pretty I was supposed to shoot for cover. This magazine called me. I had gone to shoot 3 times and Louis cancelled 3 times. Imagine carrying Red with the wires and everything, with cables, and packing myself. It was just me. I'll go somewhere to rent equipment, rent lights, rent camera, rent every other thing. No, I had a camera to rent me some lenses then. And then I will go, pack all those things, and then they will cancel. They were not even giving me transport fare.
How were you paying for the rental?
Money was from every other thing.
Wow.
I left my 9 to 5, focusing more on my editing at home. I bought a laptop. And then I had a desktop that I had assembled myself. That time which I didn't use it myself. Just buy CPU first. Then you buy money to the hard drive. I was working and I passed my neighbor. I wasn't doing bad.
For a young man.
All of this money was what I was spending, getting all those things, and they were not paying me back. The last time I was supposed to do a shoot, it didn't happen. The lady apologized again. I'm like, wow, I don't have transport fares going. She's sorry. She doesn't have cash. So I'm like, okay, fine. So while we're there, a friend of hers came, met me, talked about, oh, this is how to take. Use this as part of your transport. I said, okay. A week after that, there was a Disney style event. Photographer didn't show up. And then this person was there. They were searching for it. Say, oh, there's this guy I know. Let's call him. He knows how to do the job. I said, I'm on my way now. Now. It was funny I made a mess of that job. But I was lucky. Because someone who was also working, that was supposed to come for the event, that didn't show up early, came in later, saw the energy, said, you know what, her name was Grace. I don't know where she is. It's been almost 20 years. Yeah. And he said, oh, why don't you help? Why don't you use my camera and shoot? She set the camera for me.
Was something wrong with your camera?
That story for another day. Then we worked together. She loved the energy, the optimism on my part. She was more professional and she understood photography much more than me, event photography precisely. She also used to that kind of life, those kind of fast-paced event I was shooting.
Yeah.
We connected. I did that job. And then they said, oh, they love the job.
I thought you made a mess.
I don't know. Sometimes you think you made a mess of the job and then clients will love the job. Looking back years later, that formed my opinion about my job. I'm extremely critical about my job. I've always been extremely critical about my job. I'm always this kind of person that feels I can, I will. I've not done enough. And I think that's one thing that has continued to drive me to be better at what I do every day. And even till now, I call most of my work crap and I don't like them. And then kind of be like, man, this is crazy. I don't know what you're talking about. It could be better. I don't like it. But somehow that is how I found photography. I don't think I've shared with anybody. I don't think I've shared that part of me. Many versions of how I've gotten into the industry. But from an actual photography point of view, I don't think it's a story I've taken the time to share. So I say photography found me and hunger pushed me. It was more of me saying, I can and I will. And believing I could when actually from everything I knew then, I really couldn't. I think it was in me saying I can do all those things. As a Christian brother, I can do all things through Christ that strengthens me.
We needed to hear. I think it's a story worth sharing because there are lots of gems within that story. Being able to assess where you were, looking at the future, then trying to plan yourself towards it.
Absolutely.
And that led you to making certain decisions.
Absolutely.
And you were willing to sacrifice.
Oh, yeah.
You know, some things weren't working in your favor based off the structure of the environment and the society at the time, which was not your fault.
Oh,
I mean, so
definitely.
many times people find themselves in situations where they can't do anything about it and it's due to no fault of theirs.
True.
How then do you get yourself out of it? We hear often when they say, when life throws you lemons, make it into lemonade. You chose to upskill yourself,
Absolutely.
depriving yourself of sleep. Like at that time, I'm sure you thought you did not deserve sleep. I need to
Sleep
learn.
was away,
Yes.
totally away from me. Yeah.
And as you were going towards something, life was also pushing you, opening up opportunities. But if you never took a step, those opportunities never would have come your way.
Absolutely.
So I think it is intensely profound. And thank you so much for sharing that.
You letting me do that.
Yes, please. So all of this time, you were freelancing.
Oh, yeah.
Most times when we think of photographers, we think of the photographer and his craft. You have transcended that to create a business, a company, and put a structure around your photography. At what point did you move from freelancing into establishing Insignia Media?
I think subconsciously from the word go,
Yeah.
I've always known I would build a business. I wanted to build a business.
It's been a vision.
So yeah, for me, it's business to be built, even though I wasn't clear. In fact, Insignia started as, it was Insignia Entertainment Service.
Okay.
Yeah. So it wasn't just photography. I was doing model management, graphic design, studying computing. I was doing everything within that space. Photography is almost the last part of the art I got to that I said, you know what?
Wait.
I
You
have
had
reached
gone
out.
around different things,
No.
animation, video editing.
I'm a bad guy. I had a complimentary card there. Front and back were all my skills.
It was loaded.
It was video animation, graphic design, model management, entertainment service. I was doing everything. There was a wedding I shot. I was speaking to this guy who was in advertising. I was shooting and I told this guy, and I'd given him my card. And they're like, wow, you do all this? I say, yes. I do graphics, I do video, I do this, I do that. I say, I say, Kola, you are really a strong man. I say, yes, I am. And he looked at me and he said something I won't forget. He said, Kola, you need to be known for one thing. This is a lot. I won't hire you if you give me this card. I won't hire you. Not because I don't like you, but I don't know what you do. There's so much here that I don't see one person being able to do. I can do all of this, some will suffer. For me, setting up Insignia came from knowing I wanted to start a business. Through that time, I was trying to figure out where things were. There were days I was just tough. It was dark. Because the fear was so much. There was nowhere to go back to. I'd gone to a stage that I couldn't go back. I wasn't getting younger. I was making the decision to leave what I was already doing for years to move into a new space. I was scared, extremely scared. I didn't have people around me who could be my strength and my motivation. Looking back, I think those are things that forced me to focus on building people. The kind of places people I grew up around. There wasn't this push about being this, being that. It wasn't the kind of things I was really exposed to. There were too many things that were wrong. And I remember I would listen to Pastor Samadeyemi's messages about so many things, about inspiration, growth. Those were motivating me. I told myself I wanted to build a business, not a photography business, to be very sincere. This one is a business.
A business.
A business. So over time, by the time it crystallized into photography, I knew that I wouldn't want to do photography as just the art. I knew I wanted to do photography as business. How I was going to do it wasn't clear. But I knew I wanted to do photography as business. So over time, my experiences shaped me. My first foray into building, I was already having people come and intern and work with me, but I didn't have a structure around it. But then it was almost like the business person. I luckily had this lady who was working as a receptionist and would take my calls while I was the one that hustled around. I had this shared place on the mainland that finally got in a place, and I was like, okay, you know what? I call my office. It wasn't that I was paying so much. I was sharing the cost, but I had this young lady that was my receptionist who could take calls. Not that there was calls to take. In my mind, I registered an enterprise. So I was saying I'm a business person, I'm an entrepreneur. And that's also another beautiful thing that comes from working in an entrepreneurial business, a one-man business. Seeing how I was able to work in that space, help the person grow their business, I knew there was a reason to set up a business. There were a few things wrong with his business that I felt I would not let it happen if I ever had a business. So I knew I wanted to have a business. Having all of those things crystallized Insignia when I started Insignia as a photography was what really drove me to my first project. I started making 15 years ago. The idea of making was I was moving into shooting fashion. It was event, but I was doing fashion because it was runway events. I was just pretty young coming into Lagos then and all that. And trying to remember who the designer was that had reached out, said I wanted to do a shoot, a fashion shoot. And I said, I'll charge this. And they said they couldn't afford it. I'm like, hi. And when I sat down with her, she was very truthful. And she said, listen, this is how much I make my piece. This is how much I make. There's no way I can afford you based on that. I understood where she was coming from. That year, I came up with this idea called the making. I was already working with media companies. I started with Bella Naija. I had this network. And I said, maybe I'll pick 10 young designers every year. And also a way to build myself as a fashion photographer.
So you gave yourself opportunity to practice.
Absolutely. So I said, I'll pick 10 designers every year. I'll shoot their collection for free. I work with all of these media publications. They're always looking for content. I'll put it there. There was no social media. It was just a website and the blogs. So I said, I'll put it on the blog. They'll get exposure. And I'll talk to this day. They might also want to do it. I'll find mentors in some of the designers I know that are older. They'll mentor them. That's how the making started. And we started that project. We ran it for 2-3 years. I was able to get other photographers to come in, and they too became part of it. The fashion photography community. People were focused on fashion. It was easy for me at every point in time. What I was doing wasn't that I intentionally knew that I was building people or training people. But because I wanted to build business, while you're doing that, you keep building. As you build yourself, people notice you. You define that relationship. It wasn't perfect. There were a lot of things I was doing wrong. Even the way the business was structured was wrong. But then I was learning while building. And luckily enough for me, when I started moving into the mainstream, I started looking for people who wanted to build my business model. I started looking for mentors. I didn't understand what mentorship was. So it was later I started realizing that you need a mentor, you need a role model to build what you wanted to build. For me, it wasn't that. It was at a point that I decided it. It was first me thinking I wanted to do business, then trying to build this business. Structure started coming into place. I started building, coming up with ideas, failing, making mistakes, learning from other people, finding people who were making mistakes. But which I was making worse mistakes. I was learning from those mistakes. I think that's how.
What's the journey?
It's total journey. Everything I've been doing is journey.
On the path you were on, what was constant was, in this life, I just want to own a business.
So for me,
things began to morph.
absolutely.
And you realize that it's now beyond me. Now, the business I set out for, it has now become. While you were speaking, you mentioned a couple of times that it wasn't all the time that everything was adding up. It wasn't all the time that it looked like it was making sense. There were dark times.
So many.
What would you say was your biggest challenge, and how did you navigate solving that?
To be very sincere, there were many challenges. I won't say I had one big challenge. All my challenges were big. My journey, I keep finding so many things funny. There's something I've learned in this journey. And I say to young people around me or people I get the opportunity to speak to, the most important thing, irrespective of what happens, is to just keep moving. Just keep moving. I think that's the most important thing, the most powerful thing I think I learned. I'm learning. When you say what was the most, I think there were too many, but every time I was experiencing them, I just wanted to succeed. All those things were like normal. It's almost as if maybe I'd read it somewhere, maybe I'd lived one life before. This is how you failed in your previous life. This life around, you will not fail. When I look back at all the challenges I had, there were just too many. So when I moved in, I chose red carpet photography. It wasn't glamorous, but I found a vacuum. I saw it. And I was willing to go into that space. And people didn't believe it. And if there's one area you want to foray into, not like all the things we've done, I would say we, in one way or the other, and make it look more glamorous. But then most of what I was doing were people working with newspapers and publications that were freelance. They were attached to newspapers to cover that news part and go. For me, I wanted to create and make people look beautiful. It was hard because people didn't even regard them. They were not even being paid. Per se. I wanted to earn money from that thing that people were technically not being paid. So it was kind of weird. I wanted people to accept me enough to take beautiful pictures, not just any picture. And nobody knew who my daddy was. So I had to constantly prove myself. I had to constantly prove that I could do this. I had to constantly prove that I am likable. I had to constantly prove that I'm the right guy to take beautiful pictures of you. I had to constantly try to convince people. So it was a lot, from me working in clubs, shooting club activations, being paid like 5 or 7K or 10K, and living like crazy place on the mainland. Like, dare not use You didn't do taxi. That was yellow taxi. No Uber, nothing. You didn't use yellow taxi because yellow taxi will charge you. And what they would charge to the mainland was like 3,000 that then for taxi. It was 5,000. If I give you 3,000 out of 5,000, money has finished now. Why did I come to work? So it was me staying in Obalende to chill and eat noodles till
at the bus stop.
In that Obalende road. Our business is always it was me chilling with the noodles people till 5 a.m. The bus be loading so that I can get to Oshodi, from Oshodi to Agbado, be moving inside, abroad, staying there. I was understanding it was temporary, but I had to prove a point. To me, having to deal with wanting to learn more, to me, having to buy every single gear from every job I was doing, to me, trying to buy light and set up studio light, one guy duping me with my first major savings. There was just so many trying to prove that I could be a runway photographer. They were flying in photographers to shoot runway, their rise and the likes, because there were no photographers that were major in shooting runway photography. To me, trying to prove myself by shooting almost like 50 something designers doing one of our rise, even though I wasn't being paid by anybody, doing all of that and churning out images back to back. So it wasn't one thing that was my biggest challenge. Every part of my journey had challenges. Even when I tried building business, trying to make younger people understand what I wanted to do. The culture is not to build business for photography in Nigeria, not until recently. It's you are the photographer. Every other person is just assisting. That's what they were doing. But I was trying to build business. I was trying to build a business where I could pay tax, pension, health insurance. So trying to build all of that, the photographers didn't understand. So it was hard because I was trying to build something that wasn't. If I was doing studio photography, it would have been easier.
Right.
People come. I was majorly doing events, which means my engagement was with clients directly. How do you send people to clients who will be willing to charge less to get that job and stop working with you? To them, it's a hustle as well. They wanted to succeed. They didn't understand it would be better to build a business and grow it together. My journey has been like every single stage, I've been one kind of challenge or the other. So when people say, oh, what's the biggest? I don't think I had one big, because I can't think of it. So every time it comes, I'm like, this is just one of those. I need to cross this one so that I can get to the next one. That's always been my mentality. So it's never been, oh, that's one defining challenges or that's one defining opportunity. It's never been that. To be very sincere, when I talk to people, I'm the hustling guy. I don't stop. I don't rest. I don't settle. I keep moving. I build. I move. I fail, which I do a lot. I move. I'm disappointed. I move. I win some. I celebrate as quick as I can because I know there will be more challenges. That's the kind of person I am. And I have continued to build everything that has become Insignia, the business of photography. First, that has become this. That become all of the business we've been able to build. That become the team we've been able to pull together. It's been me saying, you know what, we just wanted something better. And we've continued to move.
So you've been moving.
I've been moving.
Don't stop.
Moving, I say moving.
And you have moved so much that I think your work now has featured in about 3 continents.
Oh, yeah.
At what point
More
did you
than
get that international exposure or acclaim?
So one thing that has worked for me is partnership, and more partnership. Finding people who share your ideology of what you want to achieve and finding a way to connect. Partnership at the end of the day, because there were situations where the money wasn't coming, but I was still doing the job because there were opportunities that I know will come. Partnership with Bella Naija, who has been one of our biggest, most aspirational partners, and coming up with ideas with them and committing to their brand and merging our own brand, which is one of the things we've been able to do. I think it started with partnership and consistency. Like I said, because I subconsciously say I can. So
Consciously say
yeah, I can. I just keep saying, yes, I can do this. Can you do this? Yes, I can. My first trip out of town was to South Africa. I think it was Channel O Music Award way back. They were like, oh, they need a photographer. And Bella was like, hey, we've got this guy. They're like, we need somebody who will shoot and get the image. I'm like, me? I can now. I will do it. I got into a town I knew next to nothing about, and I was shooting a concert so big. And I was like, yeah, I was going to shoot this. I was going to shoot the red carpet. I was going to shoot the stage itself. I didn't have the right gear. Now I wouldn't look at myself wanting to shoot those projects and having the kind of gears that I had then. But the point is, I was always willing to. That first partnership alliance, knowing what you want, put me in the right place, in front of the right people. Consistency, always willing to do it. Put me in front of the right people. We had businesses, international brands that were willing to. Those looking for Nigerian stories and Nigerian narrative that were willing to. And there was another thing that I made up my mind about is I wanted to build inspiring stories about Africa and Nigeria. For me, there was no part of Nigeria that was ugly. You can't find me take a picture of a dirty place in Nigeria. I don't. Check on my archive. When I form, I'm a documentary person. I don't document dirty places in Nigeria. I find what's beautiful within that space and tell the story of that. And I think that was one of the things that worked for me. The first time Condé Nast reached out, they said, oh, they love my pictures, they love what I did for Lagos Fashion Week, they love how I told the stories of models, they love this. I tried to take pictures of spaces and all of that. And they're like, oh, we want to shoot a couple of projects in Nigeria. Would you be willing to work? I'm like, yeah, sure, why not? Even a couple of international agencies, I have people who shoot gritty things, but I won't shoot it. There's so many beautiful people. I want to show the rich, beautiful nightlife of Lagos, the clubs, the energy, the backers that has been there since the 60s. I wanted to show the movers and shakers of society living in beautiful houses. I wanted to shoot their style, fashion, African fashion, in a way people will appreciate. I was always looking at international projects and saying, how do we create images and content in Nigeria that match up? This place is beautiful. When I started traveling, I'm like, we're all the same. And why are we trying to make a mess of it? Opportunity to shoot in South America, North America, opportunity to shoot in Asia, Europe, and other African countries. It's been me trying to tell beautiful African stories, the right partnership, and putting myself before the right people. That's the most powerful thing that worked for me, and that's how my work has gone from there. And partnership like Lagos Fashion Week, I'll give it to them. Lagos Fashion Week, Music Me Runway, and being the guy that international press would always want to use his content has helped me in so many ways.
It's powerful. When you mentioned, you kept subconsciously telling yourself,
yes,
I can do it. Yeah. It's so powerful because this wasn't about people. It wasn't the questions people were asking you. It was you telling yourself, even before an opportunity came. A part of your story earlier, you also mentioned how you saw a gap. There was no one doing wrong with photography. They always used to import people. You dedicated yourself, your time, and your resources without asking for anything, just to be able to show that you could. Fast forward, you have now become the person who they are importing or sporting.
Everywhere, London, New York, Milan, Paris, Ghana, South Africa, everywhere we go.
It's powerful.
Yeah.
Now you've put that business together. And interestingly, you did mention that if it was studio photography, it would have been easier for people to understand. How did you navigate being able to get other photographers to understand what you were doing, then to build something sustainable from that business within a space that looked impossible?
I was constantly doing it, even when it didn't seem like it was going to work.
So you were in the business by yourself, doing the business?
Yes. I'd made certain mistakes, and my drive, especially when you didn't study business, when you're a scientist through and then you found yourself in the art space.
I studied medical science.
Science true and true. So science, pure science. It wasn't about business for me. It was about A is A, B is B. I wasn't getting it right. Then I moved into arts, and I wasn't getting it right. But I kept doing it. Now I can brag. I just finished MBA, so I'm a business person. I had to convince people it's possible. I give it to young photographers I was helping then. One of the things I did years ago, with success comes people wanting to be like you, work with you, and all of that. So what I did is, beginning of the year, I would take on 10 young people who wanted to learn photography, and I mentored them. Created like a 6-month program for them. While training for free, you're working with me as well. You're assisting me, learning along the line. After 6 months, you learn all of these things for free. I pick the best out of them, absorb them, and we start paying as our staffs. While they are doing their 6 months, we give them stipends. Over time, I start absorbing some. Some of them will stay for another 6 months or 1 year and proof they're gone because they didn't understand. But what actually worked is for me to continue to share the vision. And it's tough. Even now, 2 weeks ago, we had to redefine the brand, why we're doing what we're doing. We had to show them our vision statement, our mission statement, and tell them where we're coming from, why our story is unique, why we're building what we want to build, why we need them to build with us. If we're working in the corporate world, this is what you will get. We're giving you everything. Pension, no, your tax, health insurance. We're giving you a conducive place to work. When you work late, we give you a place to lay your head till you go home. We try to make them understand, why don't we work together and build? Not all of us will be entrepreneurs. The earlier we all know it, the better. But we have to build. So what we've constantly done is we've continued to reinstate and reteach that which we want to build and explain it to people and say, work with us. We want to build this business. We're not the perfect, but we're learning as much as possible. We're taking short courses in business, short courses in people management, resource management, financial management. Now we're more structured. We've got a finance department, we've got a proper HR department, a proper legal department. We've got a proper all of this within our businesses, proper administrative department. We've got a creative team. So we're building structures around our business. Our financials are audited every end of the year. We do all we can to make sure we pay as much as possible. In this country, I don't know if you ever pay your tax and FRS will still not come after you. They will still come and ask you what is
The
not.
remaining, where is the
I'm telling you,
remaining?
where local government will come and ask you for television tax and radio tax. One of the things we've been able to do is build business and to show people, listen, this is where we were a few years ago. This is where we are now. We have a place we're going. Why don't you go with us? So it's a bit of convincing. I'm not making them understand. We're not forcing them. They have to love it. We're open to listening to photographers. Right now, I don't talk like the photographer. I talk like a CEO because it's now beyond just the images I create. I'm a creative through and through. I love creating, but I'm now also doing that with a bit of empathy to make other creative understand what we want to build. We're saying our vision is to be the largest photography / visual content agency in Africa. We want to build this. We can't do it alone. Kola Oshalusi will not do it alone. Kola Oshalusi wants to use Insignia and other little businesses. We've been able to build this, but we need you to work with us. And that's what we've been able to build. So reinforcing the vision, re-explaining the vision to people who come on board. These days, when we see that you are not part of the vision, if you don't want to go, we tell you to go. If we see we are not going, we push you outside.
Quickly.
They just leave us and let's build. So that's how we've been able to build it. It's a continuous process. And I think now that I'm saying it, it keeps taking me back to the fact that I think I've always wanted to build a business. Irrespective of where I ended up, if not art, I don't think I'll have ended up. Maybe I'll have at an NGO or something. Because I'm that empathic with my work as well. But for every situation I've told myself, I wanted to build a business. And I think that's what we're trying to do in the creative space. Yeah.
You're impact driven.
Absolutely.
Because I did like the story you told about how you don't shoot dirt. People see dirt as art. That's not your style.
I mean, I respect that. It's great. But for me, my work goes beyond the image. Discussing with somebody, looking at the big G's in the creative industry now, and I'm looking at them way back. I'm looking at those who were there then, and the compendium of work we have of all of these people, how each of them shaped the space. We focus more on fashion, entertainment, and lifestyle. And I'm looking back and seeing whatever people think they know about the industry now wasn't what it was 10 years ago, wasn't what it was 15 years ago. There were people who were grinding, who were saying they had to build an industry out of nothing. The government wasn't even really interested because the government didn't really understand the industry then. There were people who were saying, we're going to be the gatekeepers, the wave makers, the front runners, and build this. And there were criticism. There were people like, you guys, there's something wrong with you. But looking back, realizing early, we're part of something that is going to be bigger than us in future, made me understand that, listen, if I don't tell the right story, the beautiful part of the story, anybody can tell the foul part. Bad news sell the more, negative news sell the most.
Absolutely.
I wasn't willing to sell the negative news. There were platforms that were selling negative news. I chose to find the platform that was selling the positive news. And because I chose that, I won't say anything negative. The platforms that wanted in positive news were actually reaching out and saying we wanted to work with you. I think they saw it.
Tried.
Absolutely. I remember when we started a project with Bella Naija that we called it Be Inspired. And the whole idea is we wanted to celebrate local creatives, music artists, fashion, entertainment people. You go on Bella Naija, then you only find beautiful pictures. If there's a picture that is not fine, we don't post. They only tell the best stories of the best people, Nigerians achieving abroad, young Nigerians making waves everywhere. That's where you find it. Young Nigerians doing well locally, concerts that were doing well. So everybody wanted to go in the morning to see their fine picture. There was no Instagram to put you there, but you know that if Kola Oshalusi was able to take a
If I
picture,
go to this event,
you understand? And Kola Oshalusi is there. Once it takes a picture like this, by morning,
Bella Naija straight.
so by morning, by 7 a.m., everybody's waiting. By 10, all the posts are going. For me, is being able to push that. Social media has changed quite a lot of things. Being able to be the foundation of so many things that made people believe in themselves, appreciate themselves, is actually worth it for me when I look at my journey as well.
Do you think there are still misconceptions about making money with photography in the industry currently? Given all of this effort and work and opportunities that open, we now have red carpet photography pays.
Yeah,
We
pays
now
very
have
well.
runway photography
Yeah.
that now pays.
Yeah.
We now have all sorts of photography.
Yeah.
The wedding side is booming.
Mad.
Birthdays are now booming.
Everybody shooting.
Are there still misconceptions on how photographers earn or the business of photography?
Yeah, I think there's still that misconception. It's a very thin, faint line. And I think it's so new era with new problem. During our time, it was like, is it not just, I beg, please, photo, what's photo? No, they didn't really value it. I was reading one of the stories of, oh my God, what's this man's name now? Oh, Jackie Phillips. Jackie Phillips was one of the big deal photographers during the 50s and the 60s. In fact, is famed to be one of the richest Nigerian photographer that ever lived. Jackie Phillips was driving Rolls Royce, was driving in the 60s. He was
That's a big boy.
He was a second member of the present Lagos Boat Club in Nigeria. The first was the Prime Minister. Read about Jackie Phillips. Is that big?
Was he doing something else or just photography?
Photography.
Amazing.
Only photography.
Make his money from photography.
He had a studio on Broad Street, photographing everybody. They brought him to Nigeria to photograph the Queen coming into Nigeria. When the Queen came, he was the first black photographer to photograph the late King, Queen Elizabeth's husband. That's Jackie Phillips, a Nigerian. I was reading one of his stories. He had gotten to an event in his Beetle, Volkswagen Beetle, as a dark room. He was shooting a wedding at the church, what's it called now? The church in Lagos and the popular church.
Anglican
Yes,
church.
yes.
Yeah.
He was shooting there, and once it's done, he uses his car as the dark room to process, remove the film. As he was trying to come out, there were two beautiful ladies, photographer Norma and B2K, which is this life has
Wow.
spoiled. Imagine a photographer also driving a Beetle, because a Beetle was a big deal car in the 60s. He told himself, I will do more than this, and photography will be bigger than you ever imagined. A lot of people in Nigeria don't know about Jackie Phillips. He pioneered quite a lot. He was the one that people like Don Baba were praying to be able to intern with. That's how big it was. I'll say that era had its own problem. If you were not in a certain class or you didn't have a certain studio, they didn't respect the photography. Now it's different. The telephone and the mobile devices have actually created another problem. For those who don't understand, they think photography is just about take one with the phone. For the other photographers, they feel these digital devices are a threat to them. So, especially when you look at it as a threat to you, you lose the value. You don't understand the value of what you represent. So you have photographers themselves having the problem of not understanding their value. Now you have a clientele who do not appreciate the art. Does it still have the same problem of people taking it for granted as a not strong enough business? Oh, yes, because it's now both ways. The mobile phone is making it difficult for some people to say, if I don't take a picture of you, you don't get a picture of yourself. People are asking, what's the relevance of this photograph? Quite a lot of people think it's not viable. But I would say, think twice. Do the maths. Do the numbers. Nigeria has a population of 250 million. The world has never experienced a time like this that is a need for digital and visual images. Who's shooting these pictures? You've said it. There's the boom in the birthday pictures. Thank God for COVID. That everybody suddenly started realizing why it's important for them to have a picture of themselves. Thank God for COVID that changed that narrative. Look at what wedding has become now. So it's a viable business. The truth is, in Nigeria alone is worth about 3 trillion naira in Nigeria. And it's growing. We've not even scratched the surface about the potential opportunity within the industry. So for those who have that illusion or who feels it's not a business or who disregard the creative or even the creative that think, can I just be a photographer? In the last 20 years, I've been a full-time photographer. That's all I do with 20 years. It's 20 years this year. I've been a full-time photographer. And the reality is that's all I do. Photography is all I do. The branding part of my personality, Kola Oshalusi as a brand, but every other thing I built out of earning from photography. The bulk of our team members are paid from photography. Our biggest, most earning business right now, literally almost 70% of our earning comes from photography. The moment you're able to crack it and look at photography as a business, see, don't forget, I wanted to build a business. Now looking at it, the difference between photography and every other business is the product you're selling. So the question is, what are you selling in photography? As print, digital, consulting, but you're selling photography. It's the same as any business. The moment you realize it, it changes everything.
And this photography now, you've taken it to, consistent with your love for impact, right? You've gone ahead to create something called the Business of Photography Conference.
Yeah.
What led you to that?
It started from sincere empathy for young creatives. It's also talking to young creatives that I felt their works are beautiful. They didn't have business. They kept complaining about finance.
They weren't earning.
They were not earning. For me, it wasn't that I was making enough. I thought I was making good money. It wasn't. I realized there were basic mistakes they were making. And there wasn't much room for mentorship. There wasn't much room. It's getting better. Since we started 8 years ago, it's changed.
Business of Photography Conference is 8 years. Amazing.
Yeah, it will be 8 years this year. This will be the 8th edition.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Wow.
It's been 8 years. We started years ago and people didn't understand. If you don't build business, I saw it and said, listen, I had to do something. But then I was also seeing where my own shortcomings were. One of the things I teach people, and I said, listen, you need to build connection vertically and horizontally. Your network has to be vertical, has to be horizontal, has to be diagonal. Don't just have photographers as your friend. Don't just have creative as your friends. Find business people. Find lawyers, business strategists, finance. Find those kind of networks. So what I realized is because people were not really, especially the young people, I felt I had to do something. At that time, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. But then I was sitting down one day and I'm like, I don't know what sometimes I'm not sure whether it's what I drink or...
What do you drink?
The thing will just come, bam, I'm just like, yes, let's do it. Let's go, we can do it. What if we do a conference called the Business of Photography? It sounds powerful. It's the business part of this. Then we started. But there was a God factor. It was just the right time for the industry. No, it's 7 years this year, not 8. The first one was 2018 now. 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023, 2024.
2025.
It's 8. Got it. It's 8. Yes, it was just the right time. We wanted to do business of photography. We needed photographers, but we didn't want photographers to lead the conversation.
Okay.
Because we realized the main problem wasn't that they didn't know how to shoot. They just didn't know how to turn their products to wealth. So we had to find those who will turn those products to wealth. When we came up with the idea of the conference, the panel, the strategy, it was to get people in other sectors to have conversations with. But then we said we can't just leave it that way. We need to find photographers succeeding in the business. So we found those who were succeeding, who had made a name, who had built a brand, and we made them sit with other people who were doing well in other industries. And then we brought them together into conversation. They share their thoughts, their opinion about topics that we felt were salient and important to the industry, and we had the audience engage with them. So that started changing the whole conversation. We had finance panel, we had business development panel, we had PR panel, we had governance panel, because we realized that we needed policies to build an industry. We had panels. We started talking about intellectual property. We started talking about all of those things. So it literally changed. We had a conference that suddenly opened up the eye of all of these people that thought they knew what they were doing, that they were not making any money. They were not. So now you see photographers earning money from brand and product endorsements, even much more than they earn from their photography every month, because they understood the power of what they were selling. Their art became the product. They started building businesses around that. And that came from every conversation. Every year, we started having different conversations. We looked at the industry after the conference. We look at what we think was lacking in the industry, and that becomes a conversation for the next year. But we didn't stop with that. We created an online resource magazine called the businessofphotography.net as well. So what we started doing with that is everything that was important. So new inventions, new cameras, new equipment, new everything that was happening. You had all the news coming up on the website. So it became a resource website.
Right.
It's even got an inventory. It was more like Yellow Page. An index of creatives and photographers in various fields, categorized by field, by countries, by building all of that, just so that people could search, people could start teaching people, partnering projects that were relevant. So partnering Lagos Leather Fair, Lagos Cocktail Week. We started letting all of this industry know the importance of photography. We started building a more structured industry. Those doing cocktails understand why photography is important to them, because we do trainings with them in partnership, and then we also teach them why they need to have a photographer as a friend. In fashion, we started doing that. Last year, we had this project with Lagos Fashion Week that we did a training on fashion photography. With Lagos Leather Fair, we're doing the same. Why photography is important for those in the leather industry. Why you had to take the right images of your shoes, your leather product, e-commerce, all of that. So those are the things we've been able to build. It's been quite the journey. We've been able to take people from being just photographers to entrepreneurs, creative entrepreneurs, business photographers. That's what we've been able to do.
It's interesting that you mentioned the partnerships that you're having and how you are then teaching different people within different industries how to engage photography for their business, to push their businesses forward. Speaking of that, on the curtain of what you said earlier, where some photography sees personal phones as a threat. So this leads me to asking, what is the future that you see for photography in Africa? Because for me, what you've done with these partnerships, I'm a mixologist, for example, and you come to teach me the importance of photography for my business and get more clients. Then you teach me how to take my pictures with my phone. How is that not a threat to a photographer? Then how do you see that playing out in the next couple of years, considering the speed at which technology is growing?
One of the things we've done with the BOP project is made photographers understand the importance of what has happened to the photography industry in the last 30 years plus, at the advent of digital photography. Photography is art, but technology-based or technology-empowered art. If you don't understand that as a fundamental, you're not in the right industry. The one thing for sure is we've constantly made people understand technology will continue to evolve. It depends on how you're willing to adopt technology to improve your art. That's photography. Science of analog photography as we knew it then was technology. The advancement from pin-o to your SLR cameras is technology, not like the digital ones you have now. When it's moved to digital, it's still technology. It's moved to building powerful sensors, powerful programs into your devices that make you start taking beautiful pictures. And technology is getting miniaturized. Chips are getting smaller. Computer used to be like one massive house then. Now you carry the computer that can process everything. Absolute microchips control everything now. you need to adopt technology and understand that technology is the pathway to success in photography, whether you like it or not. The art is important, but how you use technology to define the art is important. If you don't see that, you see advancements as a threat. Prompt technology has come to stay, which is the one everybody is screaming AI. It's intuitive, it's disruptive, and it's prompt. It's just talk. But you know the beautiful thing? Prompting alone is not it when you don't have the knowledge of what you want to do. Exactly. It is when you have the knowledge, you know how to prompt. Cameras are going to get miniaturized. Who knows? Maybe all this we're carrying, maybe we're saying DSLR is now small, it's getting into pockets. But don't forget, there are now pen cameras that can do videos. Maybe the next one will just put one contact on your eye and then just like crack, 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 and you say zoom, it will zoom. Crack, 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 you're shooting.
Surprised if it doesn't exist.
It does. For me to have thought about it, it sure doesn't. So I think it's important that we understand that the fundamental of photography is technology. It is technology used to create art. Technology will continue to evolve. Now, do we continue to evolve as artists? Do we continue to adopt it? Do we understand what people really want in our work? Or is it the technology motion you create with your art? The moment you're able to define and understand that people will always buy into emotion, even if you're prompting and you cannot prompt emotionally, you're not going to get anywhere. Emotion will move humans. Humans respond to emotion. So are you going to build images that has emotion, or you're going to build images that, has nothing to offer? So that's going to be the real threat in future. It's not technology. Technology will come. More is coming. We don't know what's going to happen. But technology is really advancing. Quantum processing, quantum computing is making processing speed as fast as you can. Holographic imagery, virtual reality, augmented reality, all of these things are coming. Imaging is humans respond to visuals. Imaging is the core of humanity. We respond by what we see. What we see forms the biggest part of our experiences. Right. The moment you understand, you don't see technology as a threat. This is somebody you need to adopt. But you need to understand one thing, that humans will continue to respond to emotion. When you see art, we're discussing earlier, I saw this, I'm like, who did those? We will respond to emotional art. I did a post on social media. I wrote the story from emotion. The most difficult job I've ever done. Yes. That was the most difficult job I've ever done.
I read that.
Yes, that was really tough. I cried for 3 days, working every single day.
And how it made you deal with your...
Yes, it helped me deal with the unhealed trauma I'd experienced, first time experiencing death years ago. So it was hard. I needed to cry, but I needed something to make me cry. And I think that's one of the best work I've done, because while I was crying, I was looking for people who were feeling the same. I was finding laughter, because I'll laugh at what people were saying. So I'll laugh when I'm laughing. When I'm crying, I'm looking for tears, emotion. Even for me, when I looked through those work, I fell in love with them. I was contented I had done justice to that work. That is important. People will always respond to emotion. You could be shooting runway, you could be shooting fashion, you could be shooting architecture. If you don't find emotion, people will not respond.
I feel like you've already answered this question, but I'll ask again.
Okay.
What is the biggest factor that contributes to making a powerful image?
Emotion. If I say this to my people, it's funny. When I said I only shoot beautiful things, if you go through my work in the last 15, 16 years, there's something about my work. I just want to capture people happy, laughing. If you want to steal me, smile. Multi-week.
Oh, shit.
What I do to my wife, no matter what she does is find me in the right place and just smile.
It's all over.
That's it. I am particular about emotion. I want to see people happy. When I shoot weddings, I think it was Kemi's wedding I shot years ago. Just laughing. You want jackpot in your wedding. And
it's you behind the camera.
For me, all I could see was her laughing. All I could see was her happy. When I was shooting...
You were mirroring what you wanted.
Absolutely. For me, I just don't see people happy. You don't want to come to someone's event and did somebody force you to come here? If not, go to your house. For me, it's the emotion. Once you get emotions right, once you capture the emotion of an event, you've done it. Even for music concerts, people want the energy. They want to see the energy of that event. They want to see the passion of the artist. They want to see the passion and the energy of the crowd. That's what they want to see. They want to see what lighting did. You can play with light as emotion itself. They want to see what light did to the subject, to the performance, to the people. They want to see those moments that they couldn't see. The person that was using their phone to tell a different story, they want to see it. The guy that was raising their hand, they want to see it. That's what people want. Emotion. It's the emotion that the picture conveys. That's what's going to hold on to people. That's what's going to resonate with people. So yes, it's emotion.
That's magic.
Yeah.
In everything. That's
Absolutely.
the magic.
Absolutely.
So you talk about what your clients want. And also from a photographer point of view, after interacting with the photographers, how do you balance being artistic with your client's expectation?
That's easy.
Very easy. Give it to us.
Very. So I say this to people. Number one, when you're servicing a client, you're artistic at home. If you read the client's brief.
Leave art at home.
And there's some clients who trust you because they've seen your art. They want to buy your art. They give you free hand to operate. They're contented with it. But there are some, they are wired this way. They don't need your creativity. They are creative in their own mind. They are giving you money to interpret what they have seen. Please just interpret it. Don't cause trouble for yourself. It's fine. Now, if you want to show that you are the most beautiful creative in the world, please go and create your project and show how creative you are. That's one thing artists need to understand. When it's your personal project, you can do that. When it's a project the client is paying for and has defined what they want, please, it's not the time to... There are people who will love you because they've seen your work. I have people who say, Kola, this is our brief for the event. It's our wedding. Enjoy yourself. Tell us what you want us to do.
We will do it.
We'll do it. When you tell them jump, they jump. Hold your face. Believe everything you say. They want to buy into what you offer. You can be as creative as you want. They will flow with you. But when the client has defined what they want, especially for those who do corporate clients, I do a lot of corporate clients. The bulk of my clients are corporate clients. I understand it. You cannot know their brand more than they do. They know their brand. They know where they want to go. They understand their journey. They want you to help along the journey.
They don't know what they're doing.
Don't assume they don't know what they're doing. When people say, oh, the client doesn't know anything, it's a lie. They know it. From your creative point of view, you think there's something better you can offer. Correct. If they accept it, beautiful. When I'm shooting portrait, or I'm shooting anything, I'm shooting lifestyle, or I'm shooting commercial, and the client say, this is the brief, this is exactly what we want. I shoot that. I try to suggest, say, no, I shoot exactly what you want. And then I take a minute to shoot what I want. Most times when I do my post, I give you what you want. I post what I want. Most times they come back and say, why didn't you give us this picture? I had a client, I can't name the project. I was shooting, I couldn't shoot front of house. I was shooting backstage. I had my stuff set up backstage. They're like, please, that's what we want you. That's what we think you can give us the creative. I said, okay. Then I went out and I was shooting the main event itself. I was shooting and I was playing with lights. I was playing emotion. 2 days after, I picked the picture that me I've created. I posted. Less than 5 minutes, they called to say, take that picture down. I said, why? It became an issue. No, you have to take it down. This is so disrespectful. We paid you. I said, what did I do? You didn't tell me to shoot that one. You said you like it.
They gave you a brief to be back of house.
Yes.
You shot back of house. Once done, you went to the event and continued to shoot. You delivered back of house to them and kept your main event.
That's what it became an issue. And they're like, this is a breach. We're so disappointed. We have to review the contract. I say, what did I do? So one person comes and say, Kola, just apologize. Take it down. Now send the picture. Because the guy that told me that, it wasn't that they were angry. It was that they were pained. That of all the picture they have for front of house, none resonated with their vision. And when they saw that picture, they felt bad because I didn't credit them. I just credited myself. I didn't put their watermark. I just credited myself. This is my picture. But I tagged them. The picture should come out on their page first. Then they wagged me. I said, okay, don't let's use this small thing to lose food that you are giving me. I took it down. Ever since that time, you just say, okay, listen, when you finish, this and all access, come to front of stage. What if we're not stopping you? Just come and shoot. Because they know. So every time I shoot, I'm like, so I've delivered. I have some pictures. You just put everything there. We're not complaining. They trust me with everything. Because I let them have their way and I created mine. They see my expertise in another space. When clients give you a brief and they're specific, suggest. If they say no, don't talk down on your client. They take the food away. You go hungry. You cannot eat art. You cannot eat camera. That's how I balance one way that has worked for me.
Fantastic. We're going to the rapid fire segment. You need to answer quickly.
Let's do it.
What's the favorite photo you've ever taken?
No.
A favorite one?
I've actually not published it yet. It's an image I shot last year in Kano. My first daughter. The pictures are wild. Right now, those are my favorite. The most beautiful. Yeah, that falls into that category.
Daughter in Kano. Yeah. Fantastic. If you could photograph anyone in the world, who would it be?
Portrait-wise, right? Xi Jinping.
Ooh.
I must photograph Xi Jinping, the Chinese president.
You will photograph?
I think he's the most mysterious man on the face of the earth. Putin doesn't show emotion. Xi Jinping never displays any emotion. I don't understand that guy. So it's one person I am so intrigued to understand how he's been able to rule a country like China. People have different opinion about how he's ruled, firm or whatever you want to say it. But he's been able to turn a country that we thought was a third world country to the most powerful country in the world. I want to sit with that man and photograph him and look into his soul.
Amen. Describe your photography style in one Nigerian slang.
It's fresh gone.
Fresh gone.
Fresh.
Oh shit.
That's it. Fresh.
What's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
I should continue to believe in myself. What people don't know about me is I sound confident. But deep down, I'm a Gemini.
We're Geminis.
You know what I'm saying? So I'm a flippant with troubled emotion. And as much as I sound confident, look confident, I have a lot of doubts. And I was speaking to someone and I said, listen, Oga, just believe in yourself. It's okay. You're fine. Just trust God. He has a place for you. Just believe in yourself. When it's hard, when it's tough, I believe in myself.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You are going to speak a bit of Yoruba for us. But before we get there, our last guest left a word for you to interpret in your own way.
I've given the person.
This one is in English. So you're going to answer the question and interpret. This particular guest dropped you 2 words to interpret. Okay. What does discipline mean to you? And what does ownership mean to you?
Discipline is about taking ownership of self, of responsibility. Discipline is about taking ownership. It's about understanding that every action will definitely have a repercussion, which means that you have to be ready to accept whatever comes from your action. That's discipline to me. Every word. Because I'm already thinking of what can come out of my word or my action, I think it through as much as I can before I do anything. So I think that to me is discipline. It's about ownership. Ownership means taking responsibility. Ownership means accepting. Ownership means taking charge. And it's about responsibility and discipline. When you take ownership of something, it's almost like you understand that it is yours, it is you. Whatever comes out of it, you are responsible for it. So I think ownership and discipline are almost the same, depends on how you interpret it. And I want to interpret it as the same, that ownership is discipline, discipline is ownership. When you own it, you're disciplined about it. When you're disciplined about it, you do everything to take ownership of it.
Interesting perspective. To the question, if you had to change your career, what would it be?
Can't change career.
If you had to change your career, what would it be?
It's hard. Because I'm a very empathic person. So I'll possibly find some NGO to work with all my life.
NGO.
I'm telling you.
Be championing
Just
good.
I also love to talk and inspire. So I'll definitely want to be a motivational speaker. And I can talk for Africa. So if I wasn't doing photography, now that I understand what I want with life, I would definitely just want to be a motivational speaker, an entrepreneur that will continue to build businesses, bounce ideas and strategies around. I think that's what I want to do. And that's what I think I'll do if I resign
From photography.
Insignia as whatever I am. I think that's what I'll do with the rest of my life.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Now I'll pass this over to you.
Hmm.
So kindly draft your question for our next guest and leave a word. Not a Yoruba word. Next guest is not Yoruba. Please drop a word in English. Once done, share a Yoruba phrase or adage that explains your philosophy on life. Thank you. Finally, as a Yoruba man that you are, and if you can say your dialect, you tell us a phrase or a proverb that explains your philosophy on life or business.
Like if talking in you, okay. Ohun tí mo nígbàgbọ́ nú ẹ̀ jù tí ń darí ìrìn àjò mi. Ń lọ̀rọ̀ kékeré kan wípé yóò pè mí láti gbé ìgbésẹ̀ bí wọn ó tiẹ̀ kùnà pé kí n má gbé ìgbésẹ̀ kankan rárá kí n wá wò pé wọn ó ṣoríire. Ó pè mí láti gbé ìgbésẹ̀ bí wọn ó tiẹ̀ kùnà pé kí n má gbé ìgbésẹ̀ kankan rárá kí n wá wò wípé wọn ó ṣoríire. And that's been my driving force. So a lot of times when I move, tí n bá ń gbé ìgbésẹ̀ nípa apá ìgbà tó pọ̀ jù, n ò lè sọ bí tí ìgbésẹ̀ yẹn ó gbé mi dé. Nǹkan tó kàn dá mi lójú ni wípé ọ̀rọ̀ kan wà mí mọ̀ yóò ń bẹ́nu Bíbélì o. Wọ́n á ní ọmọ tó bá ṣípá báyìí níyà rẹ̀ ó gbé. Ìmọ̀ wí wà ní Bíbélì. Ẹ kó wà nínú ìwé ìwé. Ìwọ́n lè wà nínú ìwé ìwé. Pé ọmọ tó bá ṣípá báyìí ó níyà rẹ̀ ó gbé. Nítorí náà ní gbogbo ìgbésẹ̀ tí mo ti gbé nínú ayé mi, mo rí wípé ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ ẹ̀mí ìmọ̀bi tí yóò já sí. Ṣùgbọ́n ìgbà púpọ̀ kan ni mo ní wípé ọ̀rọ̀ Bíbélì yẹn tó wípé mo mọ èrò tí mo ní fún ọ. Èrò ire ni kì í ṣe ti búburú láti mú ọ dé ìkóríta tí ó já sí rere. So ohun tí mo gbé ìgbàgbọ́ mi lé lórí náà, ohun tí mo sì gbàgbọ́ jùlọ nìyẹn tí n bá gbé gbogbo ìgbésẹ̀ mi wípé ní ìgbà tí ó bá dàbí ìgbà tó yẹ pé kò sí ọ̀nà tí n bá ṣáà ti gbé ìgbésẹ̀ mọ̀nàmọ́ná yóò tàn ọmọ Ọlọ́run. That is it.
Fantastic. Thank you very much.
Thank you. My analogy, I'd rather do something courageously and fail than do nothing thinking I will succeed. It's been my key driving force. I believe that when you reach out, the universe has a way of just making things work. And I'm a huge testament to that. Most of what I've done, the moves I've made, have not been from a place of knowing where it's going to end. It's just me believing I need to do it. It has to be done. Once I take that step, it happens. I've got a friend who was a part mentor at the time would tell me that when a man is destined to fail, forces will continue to direct him in his path as long as he moves towards failure that will ensure that he fails. When a man aspires to succeed, as long as he moves in the path of success, there are forces in the universe that will continue to drive him till he succeeds. So do it afraid, do it scared, confused, but do it because of the word and the Bible that I believe in. I think it's in the book of Minister tell me. It's in a book. I think it's the book of Jeremiah. It's the book of Jeremiah that's a thought for you are the thought of good and not of evil, to bring you to an expected, a calculated, an anticipated, and a planned end. You don't know it as planned, but the master of the universe himself knows it as part of his plan. And his thought for us are beautiful. We just need to listen to him. We just need to take that plunge. But the truth is, as long as those moves are positive oriented, things will sort itself out. Thank you very much.
Powerful. You gave us a powerful ending. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you very much.
You've just heard from Kola Oshalusi, a creative powerhouse redefining the business of photography and storytelling. What story will your next move be? Remember, real stories, real strategies. That's how empires are built.